With the Pacers 2022-23 season officially over, let's break down what went right and what went wrong. Derek Kramer from iPacersblog is going to join us. We'll get to the meat and potatoes of the good and the bad of this Pacers season and grade every single player's season. It's all coming today on the Locked On Pacers podcast.
You are Locked On Pacers, your daily Indiana Pacers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in to another edition of the Locked On Pacers podcast, where we, of course, talk about the Indiana Pacers. As always, my name's Tony East. I cover the team for Forbes and SI, and today, diving into the Pacers season post-mortem style. 35-47. Was it a successful season for the Pacers? Derek Kramer from iPacersblog will join us to break down the good and the bad of the season, what went right, what went wrong, and what it means for the future of this franchise. Plus, in our third segment, we grade the season of every player and the Pacers season as a whole. A good way to look back on the year with Derek. We'll just get right to it. He's back, the guest that everybody knows. It's Derek Kramer from iPacersblog, and it's time to put a bow on this Pacers season post-mortem style. Today, we're talking the reasons you could call this Pacers season a success, the reasons you could consider it a failure, and a final grade, parting shot, thoughts, whatever you want to say to close it out. Derek, I had a weird day. How are you today? I should have led and said, we're talking about the big news that Justin Anderson, third team All G League. Congrats to Justin Anderson. But how was your day?
Way to go, Justin Anderson. Yeah, my day's good. How's it going over there for you?
You know, it's weird when they don't play for 4 days. I just forget what day it is. I thought it was Friday all day, like just completely falling apart. Look, Pacers exceeded their win total from before the season. They got some key growth from young players, but not all is always as bright as that. So you got to cover both sides of the success and failures of this Pacers season. But I'm going to go very big picture to start this conversation, because when I was thinking about how I wanted to talk about the season being a success, to me, the biggest kind of overarching thought I had, among many things and numbers and data points that we'll talk about from the season, is like, for the first time since they traded Oladipo, it felt like they were going in the right direction. You know what I mean? And they traded Victor like 10 days into 2021, right? Basically the end of 2020. And they were like fourth in the East End or something, right? They were playing good. And then they just kind of slowly dipped away and then lost in the play-in. And then the next year just was a torpedo, and they had to retool and rebuild, and they went through different coaches and teams. And then this year, finally, the nadir, I would say, was whatever, when they got shellacked by the Hornets at home, I guess, in late January of 2022. And then this year was the first year of climbing up the full year, where it felt like they're headed in the right direction again. Would you agree with that and agree that that is a reason for the successful side of the tallies?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think maybe the optimistic person might say that it started to turn as soon as they just decided to rebuild and say, we got to start over. But they're still risking that. They still had to,
Right.
You still had to see it with Tyrese becoming who they thought he was going to be. And yeah, I think he's the biggest reason that it is a success, because he immediately showed this year that he is a star. He made an all-star team, and looks like he can do so for many more years to come.
Is it just that simple? Like, we could cut through their win totals and development of young guys and all this stuff, but like, they've got a dude, and like that could just be it. A dude on a very team-controlled situation, I might add.
Right. I mean, if you look at it from the other end, like if Tyrese wasn't this, there was no way this season would be a success. Zero. So like, it's like he makes it a success, and I think there's more reasons why you could say it is, but without that, then none of this other stuff matters.
Yeah, there's a reason Pritchard was calling him, among many things, a partner of the franchise now, a guy they're going to lean on for advice and consideration when they want it, and certainly a part of everything, right? And that matters a lot. And, you know, you need a guy like that. I think it was loosely reported that he was a part of the Ayton recruitment effort last year. And hey, look, that went pretty well until it was out of the Pacers' hands. So perhaps that matters in the future. But that, like, beyond him just being good, the fact that he got way better under the watchful eye of the current front office and coaching staff, I think is important too. like in terms of giving confidence for fans towards this group can kind of grow talent in the building, right? Mathurin it's hard to say because his year was so up and down, but like I'd say Mathurin got better from the start of the season to the end. Like he had to learn how to adapt when defenses figured out like, hey, this guy's good. And Turner clearly got better this year, and Nembhard got better throughout the year. Like I think that's a big part of this too. Is some of it is that the draft just was not a strong suit of this regime for the first couple of years, but like seeing that has to be encouraging as well, considering that they are going to be a young team for at least a couple more years.
Yeah, I think you hit on my next couple things a little bit there. I think number 2 reason why you can consider this a success is that both of the rookies seem like hits. Mathurin.
There are 3 rookies, Derek. There are.
Oh, sorry, Kendall Brown. We'll get to your grade later in the last segment. But yes, both of the rookies that played more than a few minutes this year look like hits. Nembhard's the biggest surprise there. Obviously, expect the 6th pick. You want to see some encouraging signs, and you saw more than that just from the jump from Benedict Mathurin. I think he's got plenty of room to grow, which is both good and bad if you're on the pessimistic side, I guess. But I think at minimum, he's a guy that's going to be like he established a very high floor for himself this year already as like, if nothing else, this guy's going to be a 6-man scoring machine. And then hopefully he adds all of these other things to his game that Rick and the coaching staff have been trying to work on him with throughout the whole season.
Yeah, I think that's a wild success just because like last summer, I didn't agree with this take, but a lot of takes flew of that last summer was the most important Pacers offseason like ever in a long time or whatever. And it was the most important draft for them in a long time because they were picking higher than they had in 30 years. But I didn't view it that strongly. But the reason people thought that is because of the pick, right? If they don't nail number 6, like, they're in some trouble because you are bad with the hope of nailing the pick. And they did, right? Even if Mathurin, like if you redid the draft, Mathurin would go top 6 again. That alone means it was a good pick or the right pick. And clearly a guy that will have skills that sort of translate to long-term success. And that, to me, his floor of just getting to the line a bajillion times a game, that's a very good thing. Like even if he never becomes a better passer or like slightly improves in a bunch of other stuff slowly, the fact that you can get to the line that well already bodes extremely well for his long-term future. So a lot of micro successes and macro, I guess. Both of all these things we've said are both that you could just like narratively talk about. I said this when I did my end of season podcast, but this I'm going to put in both categories. We'll talk about this in the next segment too, but they went 26 and 22 when Turner and Haliburton played together. You can consider that a success very easily and go, hey, look, when this team's best 2 players played in year 1 or 1.5, whatever, of a rebuild, they were good. They would have been a playoff level team. They would have had one more win than the Brooklyn Nets. Like, that's great. That is encouraging. As Kevin Pritchard said a million times on Tuesday, the foundation is strong, right? Those are foundational pieces, at least right now, and they're good and they fit together. Now, we'll talk about this in the second segment. I would also understand if you said, well, that means they went 9 and 9 and 23 when just one of them didn't play. And that suggests that the rest of their team needs a giant kick in the pants and a ton of improvement and has a long way to go. It's also year 1 of a rebuild. But either way, I think that the fact that the foundation with those 2 is so strong, and you already alluded to it with Tyrese, but that is numerically, I think, a good stat to say, we like what we've started with here.
Yeah, I agree. And one of my other things I think made this year a success was they figured out the center position for a few more years at least. They locked in Miles Turner. He was phenomenal, like easily his career best season. I think his defense maybe fell off a little bit, but his offense was so good this year. Like obviously you've mentioned multiple times, like he set the true shooting percentage record for the franchise. Just an unbelievably efficient year. Really started clicking with Tyrese. He's like, and both of those that's 2 positions right there, and Mathurin, where you think you got 3 out of 5, where you're very hopeful that those are your starters. So, and I think that's more than they had at the start of the year with how uncertain they were about Turner. And then obviously they were probably hopeful that Mathurin would be that guy soon, but they didn't know for sure how good he was going to be either.
And they got lucky that the league was good and that they could have all this and still get a top, most likely 8, 9, whatever. Well, it's so hard to say this stuff before the lottery. It's also really hard to explain to people that their picks could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, but not 5 or 6. don't get it confused. The last thing I would say for the success bucket would be like the identity part of this that has been kind of loosely talked about by a lot of people is, they had talented players in the last iteration of their team, but like, everybody kind of described their identity a little differently, and they were never the hope was Kevin Pritchard's phrase, what was it? Hard hat lunch pail team that would beat you up and all that. And that just never materialized, and it didn't gel offensively. And there was really no spirit, identity, whatever on the court. Now it's extremely obvious what their identity is, what that's going to look like. And I think that's really important to establish as early as possible in a rebuild, because then as you add new players, they, if they can fit the identity, that just adds to their value to your team. So I think the fact that not only were they like better than everybody thought and showed a blueprint for winning, they figured out an identity that's going to work for them. I think that's important.
Agreed. I think that's a good point. I think the only other thing I have in terms of success, they found 2 guys that kind of fit that identity that they weren't sure were going to be anything in Aaron Nesmith and Jordan Wara, which even if they aren't starters in the future, when they're good, they're at least like capable role players for the team in the future, which I think is important.
I mean, if you look, this might be too much blue and gold colored glasses, but like starting from last year's draft to now, have they made one transaction that in retrospect you're like, oh, that was a mistake? No, I would probably say no. The one they maybe would like Trevelyan Queen signing, I guess, is maybe the only one, but like that, it's so minor that they did a pretty good job there, but it wasn't all great, Derek. It never is all great. Hey guys, let's take one short little break so I can talk to you about the 2023 Nissan Ariya. And to do that, we're going to name our Nissan's most electric player of the week. Pacers didn't play this week, so we'll just draw right out of the play-in tournament and go with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who was electric in the Thunder's win over the Pelicans earlier this week. 32 points, most of them in the second half. The game-sealing bucket. He was fantastic, just like the 2023 Nissan Ariya. He was electric, brilliantly fierce, fiercely elegant, stunningly powerful, elegantly powerful, and delivered on duality, a combination of fierceness and elegance, beautiful but strong, the perfect SUV crossover. The 2023 Nissan Ariya packs pin-you-to-your-seat power and premium intelligence all in one electric vehicle. The all-new, all-electric 2023 Nissan Ariya, the electric vehicle for people who love to drive. Shop now at nissanusa.com. Let's do the failures. There is 2 sides to every coin. I would say there's more successes than failures this season. I've said that quite a few times, but I still think there's something to this. And I would lead by saying the same thing I said in the last segment. They went 26 and 22 and Albert and Turner played, which means they were terrible without just one of them, not even both of them not playing, just one of them not playing. Like, remember when Turner got hurt to start the season, they were 1-5 out of the 1-4, whatever. They were bad to start the season without him. That stretch turned out to be really important standings wise, by the way, thinking of him turning his ankle before their first game started. But like, they couldn't win. And Tyrese really grew a couple months into the season, certainly, but they couldn't win. They lost to the Spurs and Wizards in that stretch, right? Like, they would have liked to have Miles Turner for those games. But that means, and they got more of these wins later in the season as Nembhard got better at the 1 and Mathurin learned more about responsibilities. And they had like Jordan Wara on the team at that stage. He was playing better. So like, it's not perfectly representative of their season, but their supporting cast just could not win without at least one, often both of those guys. And so that suggests that maybe this isn't failure. Maybe this is too, because again, it's early in a rebuild, but they're still maybe farther away than it seems just looking at their zoomed out perspective.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing with the Tyrese injury especially is just like they were so just not even competitive for a while without him. And It's just clear like they need, like, Turner's probably ideally a 3rd or a 4th best player on a team. Like, they need a second guy. And that's going to be like, they hope maybe Mathurin can be that. Maybe the draft pick this year, depending on wherever it ends up, 1 through 12, not 5 or 6. yeah, they want to find that second guy. Maybe it's making a big trade like Pritchard just talked about. They tried to at the deadline.
He's itchy, Derek.
He's itchy.
He's itchy.
He needs some cream or some lotion to take care of that.
Maybe calling it a failure isn't that the supporting cast isn't good enough, but rather they were just so reliant on two guys. Maybe that's a better way of describing what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. And when your offense is so heliocentric with Tyrese, like, and he goes out, like that's a shock to your system. Like everybody's trying to figure out how do you cover for this guy who basically did everything for you on offense. So it makes sense. Like it's just like the Nuggets every year when Jokic leaves the floor. Like, now what do we do now that guy's not on the court? I would say my biggest failure this year, which sadly is that they weren't good enough at tanking at the end of the year, which is dumb. Like I wrote a piece on my website about like not being able to enjoy like George Hill, maybe his last game as a Pacer, scores 17 points, hits a half court shot, and it's just like, why are you doing this to me?
Yeah, like
it's a bummer. Like I can't.
Yeah, it was weird. It was a weird day. I think every team, whatever word you want to use, tanking, losing, managing injuries, whatever, gets one game, right? The Portland beat Minnesota. It happens. Orlando beat, I forget who. It happens. Pacers beat OKC. It happens. The Knicks game was just like, how do you avoid this? Like George Hill, 5 of 6 from deep. All right, let's take him out. Let's put Buddy Hield in. Oh, crap. He's also 5 of 6 from deep. All right, Jordan Nwora, you're the 2. Oh, gosh. You can't miss either. Okay. What other options do we have? Like they couldn't do it. It was like they got their one like vibes down the stretch win, and then they do whoever they put out. That game made no sense. Like whoever was on the floor, that was the only game the entire season, Derek, that they gave up more than 130 and won because they couldn't miss. They just literally couldn't miss.
Yeah, they're down 15 or so in the third quarter.
In the third quarter.
Like, and a fan who's aware of the lottery is just like, I can't enjoy this comeback. Like, it's very unfortunate. Like, I just wish there was some way to like in a down season where you can enjoy a team's win at the end of the year. Just give me something to where it's not a bad thing in the end, that all of these awesome things happened for the team playing basketball that you root for. And yeah, like you talked about, they couldn't miss, and they won that game against the Knicks. And then when they beat the Thunder couldn't make anything. So like they won 2 games because of crazy shooting luck on both ends of the spectrum. And then if they lose those 2 games, they're tied with Portland.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is nuts. And who knows? It doesn't like it. Anything can happen in the lotteries. Like they're due for some like 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 to move up into the 4th spot. It's been a while. Like since these odds changed, they're all better. So like anything could happen in the lottery, but it's just unfortunate. You can't enjoy some of those fun wins at the end of the year as much because of that.
Since Orlando lost, it might, like, just because of the way the coin flips work, it might end up just not mattering anyway. We'll see. I mean, they lost odds no matter what. They lost at least 5% odds no matter what. But it could just end up that they would have been 7th either way and they're 7th. But yeah, the percent loss happens no matter what because of the win. And that's just a very, like, how much I hate that the NBA has set this up. But here we are. Love games like that. This is hard to perfectly articulate, so I'll try to find the words as I talk, which maybe I should have prepped better to say this. Of the not key, of like the bit young players, right? O'Shea Brissett, Isaiah Jackson, Jalen Smith, Chris Duarte. Did I miss anybody here? Maybe Aaron Nesmith, although he's probably out of this group. None of them, I think, took a step forward in the way the Pacers would have hoped. Like of all the fringe type young guys. So Nesmith became a starter. Maybe he's not a fringe guy, but all the rest of the like back rotation young guys that the Pacers would hope could establish, like, yes, this guy's on our team. This makes sense. Of the ones who started the season, because Jordan Nwora clearly showed that he'll be on the team next year. Of the ones who started the season on the team, I would say like they had up and down moments, but none of them took the step forward or showed enough to say like, yep, obviously a part of our next great team. And I think that's something the Pacers would have hoped to see before the season. And so is that a failure or whatever? I would say, yeah, but maybe a little bit.
Yeah, it's definitely on the negative end of the spectrum. However, you're going to chop it up. Like Jalen Smith, like they thought so much of him that they promised him a starting spot. And then maybe with hopes of if Turner gets moved, he moves to the center spot or whatever. And now it's like maybe a backup. He looked better than Ajax at the end of the year, but then it's like also, Ajax, is he just another Goga? Like, is this another first round pick that we spent on a center that's never going to really play? So, yeah, I think Turner kind of masked those things that they were able to re-sign him, and that helps. But, yeah, you definitely were hoping for more from both of those guys. I think with Isaiah Jackson, I think the one thing I would have liked to see more of in this season where they were kind of exploring and trying things. It's like, why wasn't he ever a 4 at all? Like we saw lots of Jalen Smith
like 50 minutes, like barely ever. It was crazy too low.
Just something. Like I would love to see more of that pairing with him and Miles Turner. Like I know that they're probably going to have similar issues offensively where the centers aren't going to guard Miles. They're going to guard Isaiah Jackson. But like both of those guys on the court on defense just feels like so fun. Like I just want to see that, how that works. And we just didn't get to see that this year. And I would have enjoyed just seeing a little bit more than I think 13 minutes is what we got.
Wow, is it that low? I mean, I believe that. That's just, I know why they tried it, but as soon as they saw the cross matches, it just gets scary. But I am with you that defensively, it just seems like, especially for a team that wants to get those stops and steals and run in transition, like give it a shot. And Isaiah's unique in that, you put your center on him because he can't shoot, but I mean, even center wise, who's matching his athleticism in the NBA? Like 5 bigs. You know, it's he still probably could do something with his verticality, and Turner can shoot enough. Look, we know that him at the 4 is not as good as him at the 5 from this past season in his whole career, but he could do it. He's done it. So, yeah, I would like to see that. I would have liked to see that explored a little more. We'll see what happens in the future. Duarte, like, I don't even know how to perfectly talk about his season because the timing of all his injuries were like right when he was getting going every time. But even in his like extended stretches, you know, it very rarely felt like he definitely was from mid-January to mid-March. He was like his efficiency was fine. Like he was a fine player, but you know, I'm sure the Pacers were hoping for more than fine from the all-rookie guy last year, who, you know, I think still is probably could be an elite shooter in this league. I mean, he didn't make me look smart for saying that this season at all, but I still think that that's a possibility. So maybe he doesn't fit stylistically. Maybe it was just the most frustrating season ever. We'll see. But that, I think, would be in my failures bucket too.
Yeah, I think he's probably the most disappointing performance of the season. It's just like it felt like it was just the year from hell for him. But like it's just like you got to do it. It's just kind of there's only so many excuses you can give the guy. Like absolutely, it sucks. Like he finally had that one game at the beginning of the season where he scores 30 and then immediately gets hurt. But it was just constantly you just couldn't really get things going except for that one stretch you said in the middle of the year.
Well, and look, like I get that injuries mess stuff up, but like other guys got hurt on the team and no one else had that stretch. What do you miss? Like 20 shots in a row or something in late December? Like it got rough at times.
Yep, absolutely. Let's see, the only other thing. Yeah, I had Duarte on my list too. The only other thing, like I didn't like I have more concerns about Mathurin than I did at the beginning of the year. I don't even think this is like a failure or anything. It's just like I have a lot of questions, and I'm really excited to see like what happens with him this offseason and what he can improve at. Like I think the number one thing I want him to see him improve is his handle, because he's just like casually loses the ball so often. And like it's so impressive like how often he gets to the rim and gets fouled, even with his handle kind of iffy right now. Like if he can figure out how to control that ball better, like, and he's already getting to line this much as he is, like I feel like he can be like close to unstoppable when he's driving towards the basket once he figures out how to dribble with both hands and keep it. Like it's so weird how he just loses the ball and it'll just like fall over sometimes without like barely any resistance.
Yeah, like that, and his like to me, if he could just pass a little bit, he'd be way better. Just the way you're defended, if you can even kick to the corner. Like I hate to put too much stock in one game, but the last game, 6 assists, and some of it was that the Pacers couldn't, like we talked about, couldn't miss. Like finally, there it was, like some signs of playmaking life, because not only does that change the way you're covered, but if you're a coach trying to design what you can do on a possession, if you can't score, if you can't run a Mather and pick and roll because all the defense has to do is send 2 to the ball and it's a dead play, like then you can't run the last shot through him. Like if he can pass or even just hit a big man on the roll, I just feel like that would open up a ton for him, but that might not matter if he has a loose handle and has Oladipo-itis, and when he gets doubled, he can't even get the ball away. Oh, that playoff series was the weirdest thing. I still have a lot of screenshots from that series just on my computer from how much I was tracking that double team stuff back then. I agree with you that it's just non-scoring skills. Those need to be slightly enhanced for him on the offensive end. One more break here, guys, so I can talk to you about the great people over at Built Bar. Looking for a delicious snack but don't want all the sugar and calories, then you've got to try the best tasting protein bar ever, Built Bar. If you're like me and want to make healthier snack choices, I ate like 10,000 peanut butter pretzels today, but you don't want to compromise on taste, I've got just a thing for you. That's Built Bars and Built Puffs. They're healthy and taste amazing. They're so good, you won't even know that they're good for you. What makes them so good? Well, they're covered in 100% real chocolate. They come in unbelievable flavors like churro, peanut butter brownie, and cookies and cream. And I don't know how they do it, but they taste like a candy bar while maintaining amazing macros that are healthy with 130 calories and only 4 grams of sugar, but a whopping 17 grams of protein. And now you don't need to wait to get a box. For years, we've been talking about ordering Built Bars at Built.com, but now you can get them at your local Walmart or Sam's Club. Well, you can still get the specialty flavors at Built.com. Head to Walmart, 4-bar box of cookies and cream double chocolate or coconut puff at Sam's Club, 13-bar box with brownie, batter puff, churro puff. Thank me later. Try Built Bar today. Grades. Do you want to do every player? Do you just want to do the whole team? How would you like to do this?
I got a grade for every player. We can go through them like real quick.
Okay. We'll have to do like 30 seconds or less. Okay, I'll have to come up with these on the fly then. So
okay. I'll say a player and then you can just quickly give a grade too. That work?
Oh, okay. Go.
I did it pretty quick. So Tyrese
A plus. No. A plus.
I didn't do any A pluses, but he would have got
no pluses and minuses at all, or just no A pluses?
I did a couple pluses, but like, yeah. But
this criteria on my own podcast is very ambiguous, Derek. I need some instructions. Okay. Yeah. Whatever your highest grade is, that's what I give Tyrese Halliburton.
Yes, sure. Buddy,
wait, is there any argument for anything else? I mean, you got to be a better on-ball defender. I think
just that. Defense. That was the only thing. Nobody's perfect. That's why I didn't do A pluses. So, Buddy, I gave an A. This is all. I will say this is all in terms of expectations.
Sure, he exceeded expectations, no doubt. I'd still give him a B. I mean, their defense just falls off a cliff when he's not out there. And he's still a little reliant on Tyrese to be he's still a good driver of success for others on the offensive end, but he needs Tyrese to be like elite. I'd probably give him like a B minus. But above expectations, certainly.
Benedict, I gave a B plus.
Yeah, I'll do that too. For the reasons we just described. I mean, the way he started the season just gives me a lot of confidence that he's going to be good. Like, you can get to the line that much, it's hard to be bad. So yes,
I think some of his kind of downsides is him trying to figure out when to pass. I think he was just like thinking too much. That's my theory. That he just wasn't playing without thinking because his instinct is just to score and go for that all the time. So, and I think we kind of saw that with Miles to a lesser extent, like early in his career when he was starting to learn how to make simple reads. So, like, it might take him some time. I am hopeful.
I'm glad we're talking a lot about him.
Okay.
Well, wait. I have one more thought on him. Next year could be weird in that his stats could actually look worse. But if he figures out how to play better with Tyrese Halliburton, I would give him a better grade, if that makes sense.
I think that's fair. Neesmith, I gave a B plus.
Yeah, I'd about do that too. I mean, what did he not do that I would have expected him to do better? I guess. Yeah, the shot's inconsistent. It just is what it is.
Yeah, he had a couple months where he couldn't shoot. Other than that, though, I thought he was great. Fouls too much on defense.
He went from a guy that I was like, is he going to be in the rotation or not, to like, oh wow, he should start every day.
Yeah. I thought Brissett should have played over him at the beginning of the year, 100%. Okay, Nembhard, I gave an A.
Yeah, A minus. I would give an A minus, but his end of season surge, maybe I should have given him an A. He was maybe their best guard defender on the team. The thing with him, he cleared this up at the end, but it felt like. This was my theory. I would tell Dustin Dopirak. He's like, 5 out of every 8 games he's good. So like more than half, like a lot of the time he's good, but there's still a couple like in there. But he cleaned that up at the end. He was really good for the last month. So A-. Yeah, I'm good with that.
Jalen Smith, a C.
Man, he got jerked around so much. His last month, I would have said C-. I think. I mean, just he said it like he. This is his exact quote. He said, "I damn near couldn't miss last year, and he couldn't make anything this year." And so now the question is, what will he be next year? If he's this season's Jalen Smith, then the expectations got to be changed. So, yeah, he's a willing shooter, which is important. Kaylin Cooper wrote about that in her most recent story. I think C- is about right.
Isaiah Jackson, I also gave a C.
Same thing. Yeah, he was remarkably consistent at the stuff he's good at, and like tried to add stuff into his game, but it just didn't quite. He didn't get a lot of chances, but it didn't quite materialize. So yeah, C-.
I have so many questions about his defense still. Like in theory, he's supposed to be able to guard so many spots, but in practice, it's like he blocks shots or nothing else. It feels like.
Here's the thing: I don't have questions. Like I've seen him do it. He just doesn't get that many chances to do it. You know what I mean? So it's like, but also, why would they have done it in a high leverage situation this season? They have other guys who are just as capable that it makes more sense. So I get why we didn't see more of it, but I don't have a lot of questions about it. I really believe in it.
Chris Duarte, D.
D-. Yeah. I mean,
in terms of expectations, I mean,
absolutely. Maybe
lower, but
I'd wonder what he would give his own season. Like more than any other player, I'd be curious what he would give his own season, because for him specifically, I bet he felt like he never got a rhythm. His role was different every single time he returned from injury. The team completely changed styles from last year, so it was tough. And even Tyrese talked about how when you go into your second year, you feel like you're the king of the world and you figured out this whole NBA thing. And you're like, oh, yeah, I'm still young and not that. And so like a lot of factors that I bet if you're Chris Duarte, you describe that to your struggles and say, yeah, I got better at this stuff and figured stuff out. But if you're not Chris Duarte, you're probably like, well, we thought you'd be a little better this year. So I bet he would give himself a high, which is not wrong of him to do, but I bet he would give himself a higher grade than I would, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's probably accurate.
Is that a stupid thing to say? Does that even matter? I'm just thinking out loud.
Does he still have braces?
He does braces? Not. He doesn't. I don't think.
That was my theory early in the year for his struggles. Like, it's just so uncomfortable that he couldn't focus on anything other than his mouth. That was just.
When we were doing Samurai Miles and people were tracking his stats, like with the headband and without it, and with certain hairstyles, we knew that
braces Duarte,
and the black hair Duarte, and maybe that would help us figure this
out. Miles, I gave an A offensively, C defensively.
Wow. Yeah,
expectations. I did not think this was a good defensive year for him. I thought it was okay, but I didn't think it was one of his better defensive years.
The numbers are hilarious because he was with the starting 5 that was just terrible on defense all year. So it looks like the team was better on defense when he wasn't in the game, which was just like factually false. Like the numbers say that. It's just not true. That happened to Kawhi with the Spurs in his final year, and everybody was like, "This doesn't make sense." I'm like, "Yes, it does." The rest of their starters are just bad at defense. Turns out LaMarcus Aldridge is slow. So like, yeah, I don't like. He wasn't the force he was in years past. I will certainly say that, but he just was covering for so much stuff. Maybe I'm excusing it a little too much, but
look at the Bjorkgren year. He covered amazing for everybody. And he was amazing. Yeah. So yeah. I just like offensively, I think obviously best season of his career in terms of expectations for what I expect from Miles. I thought this was just average defensively.
I had never thought of it that way. I mean, I wouldn't say he exceeded expectations, so certainly would probably be about a C just by default in that case. But C just sounds mean when it's like this guy's good.
I mean, that's fair. I just don't take it. He's not going to listen to this, but take it as motivation. I want to see better defense next year.
Yeah, you're right that it wasn't as impactful as past season. So I guess by default it's a C. I sound dumb. I sound like I'm like defending the guy, but you know what? She's probably right. For defense, for offense, A+.
Yeah. TJ, I gave an A just because he can make threes now. That's the reason he takes them with confidence and can make them. The fact that he hit a pull-up 3 in transition, like on purpose, that was what he meant to do, is just mind-blowing. Like from where we've been with him in the past.
I forget who they were playing. I think it was Atlanta. It was one of their last road games. I think I said this to you. Like he caught a three. He caught it on the wing and took a three. The fastest I've ever seen him do that process. Like didn't realize there was a defender far away and then shot it, or wasn't like so wide open. It was hilarious. Like he just caught it and shot it and he made it. And it's like, oh, and you were at this game. I think the Gabe York game when someone asked Rick Carlisle about him taking 6 threes and him having the green light, and Rick said, "You watch this year. Everybody's got the green light." Like if TJ can be on the floor, Rick's gonna let him shoot. So if he can make 40% of them, I mean that's huge. I mean, I don't think it really changed the way he's defended, but it certainly changed how impactful he can be. And he's their pestiest defender still. So I mean, he just does. He is so important to me. I'm rambling so much about these guys, just because. Like when Tyrese was out, no one else could dribble towards the basket every possession. Like Drew could do it sometimes, but that was so huge for their offense.
The point guard of the process Sixers was too good to play in games late this year. He was too good to tank. The point guard of the process Sixers. This was unbelievable.
There was a game where TJ brought up the process Sixers before the game, and just like he's like, look at the first year roster of that team. Like you would never believe they won 10 games. You would think they were like a 25-31 team because there's a lot of them are still in the league, including TJ, who was an A minus level guy this season.
Okay. Where am I at? O'Shea, I gave a C.
Yeah. I mean, the shooting getting worse year over year. It's hard for me to even give him a C, even though he does a lot of stuff fine, never makes mistakes. But if you don't make shots at some point, your effectiveness is just, it is what it is. Yeah, C minus. I agree.
I think he benefits a lot from when he played with Tyrese, and he was good with before Tyrese too, but he cuts so well, and I don't think we saw like the full O'Shea goodness from some of that stuff. Wara, I gave a B+.
Agreed. Yeah, the defense needs some work, but I mean, he'd be a guy that I would split offense and defense too, because compared to expectations, A- A on offense, but D+, C- on defense.
Yep. James Johnson, I gave it A in the locker room, D on the court.
Can we even grade guys who played at 150 minutes?
He played like legit rotation minutes occasionally. So
see another one.
Like did not go well.
In the final game in New York, he had a pull-up 3. Or not a pull-up 3. He had a pull-up off the dribble long 2. It's like you can't lose when those are going in. Yeah, he started a game. He played point guard for a couple minutes. That didn't go well, but he did it. He was valuable against his old team when they played the Nets.
Was he?
Yeah,
was he?
On court value, incomplete grade, locker room A.
Yes. George Hill, A in the locker room, A on the court.
Wow,
he is way better than I thought he was going to be. I thought he was washed, and I think he was their best perimeter defender.
He did stuff. He was fine.
He could still play defense. He hit 55% of his threes with the Pacers. It
was funny to hear him at his ex interview because he was like, "I want to be the Udonis Haslem of this team," and then he was like, "But I think I can still play." And then he goes, "Not that Udonis can't still play." It's just like you have to keep qualifying it. Like I get what you mean by that, but you're also better than him right now. Like that's fine to say. It's fine to say. Yeah, he's fine. I mean, if anything, to me, like I was talking about this yesterday. If they're trying to decide what vet to keep, the fact that George Hill can give you capable point guard minutes seems valuable. And yes, an A in the locker room kind of guy as well.
Yeah, like I like James Johnson. Everybody seems to love what he brought to the team this year. But if I'm picking between those two, I would also prefer George Hill just because we've seen what the team looks like when they don't have a capable point guard.
Yep. I have no idea if they're going to have to pick between them, but just looking at their roster spots, that makes sense is something they might have to do. I got to be very clear about that because I've said that like 100 times.
And Pritchard said that's a decision that's like a July 10th or something. So after everything's settled, then you try to.
How many roster spots you have. You let them explore their markets. Yeah.
Yeah. Kendall Brown, I just gave an incomplete. I gave him
no grade. No grade.
I liked the little bit that I saw. Like he looks fun. I think he would fit really well with this identity of the fast, wanting to run all the time stuff.
I think that based on the fact that it sounds like they're at least somewhat interested in having him, a 2A again. They're like what they saw too, even if it was limited. Like he was fast and defensive in the G League. That's good. I mean, we'll see if it ever becomes an NBA thing. So yeah, incomplete. He didn't play enough.
Gabe York, gave him a B. He hit some threes. I don't know. Not much to say about him.
I'll give him an F for fun, not for failure.
And last,
Gabe York got to live the dream of every like fringe NBA dude. Just show up and chuck threes, baby.
That's
like that is as fun as it gets. The greenest of whites. He's fine.
Yes, he only got a handful of games to play in his NBA career. Might not ever get another shot again, but like he actually got to play and shoot the ball a ton, which is more than a lot.
McConnell, when he was in there, was like, "Go here, get Gabe the ball." Like they were.
James Johnson did the same thing. Like he was like, "You come here," and
Yeah.
like just brought him the little handoff, like shoot it. Last, we got Daniel Tice. I gave him a Y, as in why did he play a single minute this season?
He showed he's healthy. I suppose that's good for the Pacers and their potential deciding what to do with him. They may give him the backup center or something. I don't know. Yeah, I mean his minutes weren't even like he was fine. Can I give him an F for fine? Like I gave York an F for fun. I mean, I didn't have expectations for him because I never thought he'd play. So it's not even like I can say above or below expectations. So like he was who
like I knew he was. Like he's a fine.
He set good screens and was able to keep up with the fast style better than I thought he would. So I guess that's all good stuff. But he only played 7 times, so it's not like I have a lot of thoughts about this.
Yeah. All right.
Is that everybody?
That's everybody except for the guys that got.
I was gonna say, are we not Serge Ibaka, NA?
No, Serge Ibaka gets an A for that glorious graphic that the Pacers Twitter posted. Welcome, Serge Ibaka.
So bad that they have to do that, and they had to tweet the waiver announcement. Goga, I would probably have given like a C-. Terry Taylor, probably like a D+, C-. Trevelyan Queen, incomplete, I guess. He had that one good game in OKC, and
probably just a C.
Yeah. Yep. That's all. That's it, right? Yep, that's everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't miss any waivers at the deadline, did I? No. Okay. I'm glad we got to talk about Serge Ibaka one more time. I was having a hole in my heart from liking that. Well, thank you for hosting this segment.
He's still listed on the roster on ESPN. Serge Ibaka's on there.
No one else picked him up, so they're like, "Well, why don't we have some coder go in and fix this?"
Even like they photoshopped the jersey on him and everything.
Did I tell you this? I saw somebody at one of the Pacers' last 5 home games in a Ricky Rubio number 99 jersey. And I was like, what? How is this even possible? He said he got it from AliExpress or something, which is like some overseas website. Maybe I shouldn't have said what it is, but I was dying laughing. So if I see a Serge Ibaka jersey next year, I'm going to be cracking up.
I feel like that's the one time you get a joke jersey, you're allowed to buy it from an illegal supplier.
I don't think that anyone sold Ricky Rubio. I don't think he would have been number 99 if he actually showed up. So.
Like, even if you can buy that for real, I think you're allowed to use something that's a little sketchy to do it.
Yeah, I'd heard of it before because of stuff, but I don't own jerseys. Either way, one more grade. You hosted this whole segment, so I will close. The whole team, the whole season. What would you give?
I give it a B+.
Yeah, I would probably do that too. I mean, for me to give it an A this year, they either had to make the playoffs or have the exact same record that they had, but there were clear and obvious steps for like Jackson Smith, all the guys that we have still questions about. So there's Duarte too. Like there's still some incomplete stuff with youngsters, and they're in that weird middle ground of record. Again, it turns out that the league was all really good, so it worked out. But yeah, B+ seems good to me. That's the Pacers postmortem, Derek. I can't believe we're here.
They're dead. Let's see what happens next year.
Look, next year's weird. Like next year's the hard year of building for teams. People forget this sometimes. Once expectations join the party, things are way different. And I didn't know what the Pacers were thinking next year, but it sure sounds like Kevin Pritchard's talking about that number 45. That's a lot of wins, and those are hard ones to get. So they can do it, but man, it's going to be hard. It's going to be tough.
Let's see what happens. There's a big rousing ending.
Getting from 25 wins to 35 wins is like you have to beat the Wizards.
There's
the
a
Magic.
there's a reason that Kings fan after the Summer League game was like, we're getting 40 wins. It's like, that was a big jump. That's hard.
Yeah,
to do.
yeah. Like getting from 25 to 35 means you have to be better than the teams I just said, right? Getting to 45 means next year the Pacers have to be consistently better than the Clippers, the Heat, the Warriors, the Hawks, a much better tier of teams that you're picking off consistently. And they can do it. They showed it this year. They beat, is there a team they didn't beat in the league this year? Actually, the Spurs. They didn't beat the Spurs. Okay. Besides the Spurs, is there a team they didn't beat? They showed that they can hang with anyone, but it's still very hard to do that jump. We'll see expectations next year. Will be fun. Derek, you're writing more now. Season's done. Where can people follow you and your musings about the Indiana Pacers?
You can find my writing stuff on iPacers.com. I had a goal that I completely failed this year. I was trying to write for every game, and I got sick at Thanksgiving, and then I started writing 2 games at once, and then it was a goner. But you can check out my stuff there. I've got some new stuff up that's more recent, and then I'm hoping to maybe dive into some draft stuff or maybe make another choose your own adventure if I feel up to the giant task that is.
I probably shouldn't, but I am just completely stalling draft stuff at this point. I mean, it's the next thing for them, like very obviously. They have 1 million picks. It's like I really just need to scout like every player, which is impossible, but that's next. That's the thing. And speaking of, this is coming out Friday, TBD on the date, but next week there will be a recap of the random drawings, talking about what the Pacers need to be watching for in the playoffs, looking ahead at their offseason and the numbers game that is 3 free agents and 5 draft picks and a lot of cap space. That doesn't make a lot of sense. Kevin Pritchard said, quote, it's going to be nuts, unquote. So lots of fun to come here on the Locked On Pacers podcast. Thank you guys so much for listening. Have a fantastic day. See you next week.